Hey everybody, we're doing something a little bit different here on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be hosting, or my channel is going to be hosting a 3-part series called Justice Now Teen Voices. And what we have is a 3-part video series, and it was created by the Righteous Conversations Project. The Righteous Conversations Project is an unbelievable project that connects Holocaust survivors to teenagers, to students throughout schools, and it introduces dialogue and helps Holocaust survivors connect with young people to talk about the significance and the meaning of the lessons of the Holocaust. In particular, this series of videos that you're going to be seeing on my YouTube channel are showing how teens are reckoning with racial injustice in our country as they call for justice now. So I'd like to thank the Righteous Conversations Project for starting this dialogue, and I'm gonna turn it over to the incredible Dovely King. I saw her and some of her colleagues speak in a Righteous Conversations Project seminar, and I was so moved by how unbelievably articulate and creative and passionate these teens were, and I'm really thrilled to turn it over to Dovely so that she can explain Justice Now.
Thank you, Mayim, for this platform. We really do appreciate it. I'm Dovely King. I'm a senior at George Washington Preparatory High School in Inglewood. I participated in RCP's summer workshop where we made public service announcements and short films. I am honored to welcome you to the 3-part YouTube series, Justice Now, Teen Voices. This is just gonna be amazing. At this moment, I really wanna dig deep into what it means to be a Black American. We live in a system that has been so finely programmed to oppress a certain group of people for 400 years. Today, we will watch a documentary called Us and Us that is going to jumpstart our conversation.
Do you live in the city? Do you go to school? Do you wear jeans? For those reasons, you would have been among the 3 million killed during the Cambodian genocide. Dehumanization. It's a big concept, but I'll sum it up in 2 words. Us and them.
Dehumanization means you don't see other people like humans.
This wasn't a spontaneous event. It manifested during the Cold War. The fear of communist expansion led the US to bomb 2 neutral countries. Cambodian revolutionaries used the rural people's fear of America's Black Reign to garner radicalized support. This was the beginning of the Khmer Rouge.
The Khmer Rouge have, we categorize each other and see other group, see other person as lower than us, like animals.
First, they targeted doctors, teachers, and artists.
City people, they were educated people, they were anybody who didn't wear the same clothes, didn't sing the same way, didn't talk the same way. They were treated as enemies.
Everyday people like you and me were torn from their families and brought to labor camps. How could this happen? How could an entire country be turned into a death camp with 1 in 5 people never returning? It grows from the same thing that sparks racist jokes and stereotypes to wars and genocides.
We characterize people and things we don't understand, and we put them in boxes, and then because we don't understand them, we just push them off to the sides.
And we categorize each other because of the selfishness. I'm better than you, you don't believe in my religion, I kill you.
Dehumanization is when people are victims of injustices because they are portrayed as the enemy or less than human.
I was forced to do both sides, to be perpetrator and to be victims. You know, peeing on other people's head to degrade them, it's like peeing on your own head because they're only human beings. They reflect you.
Why are people dehumanized? Because of this lack of integration. When you live apart from each other, the rich in one area, the poor in another area, the rich see the poor only as laborers, as their servants. Well, they are dehumanized.
When I think about the injustices African Americans have faced and continue to face, I feel hopeless. Because ever since we were brought here, even after slavery was abolished, we've been oppressed by laws and social policies. And these injustices continue today because we're perceived in a false light as criminals or thugs. And these images have become so ingrained in our society that many African Americans have come to accept them, especially the youth. So how do we take action against dehumanization?
So we have to have a conversation authentically about what's broken in our community, and then we have to fix that, even as we turn our attention to the institutions that don't seem to be working in our favor. And that includes those that are supported by government, including a police department.
If you let children live together, work together, rich or poor, they will learn to appreciate each other and to understand each other. There will be no more hate, no more resentment.
I think the world would be better now if we just have a good time with each other, singing, you know, crying with each other, laughing with each other, and holding each other, you know. Why not? Why the simplest thing we don't do anymore? I don't see you as black at all, Trey. I see you as my brother.
And in the words of Helen Freeman, a Holocaust survivor who carries the pain of dehumanization on her arm, we can carry the torch and make sure dehumanization doesn't manifest in the future.
This world we living is crazy. Young girls are having babies. Some people live their lives so broken dreams and game banging. Seems like they turned a blind eye on the youth.
Allow me to introduce my amazing panel. First, we have Ariana Batiste, a writer, filmmaker, and BAFTA RCP alum. Next, we have Trey Carlisle. He just graduated from Soka University and is a social justice educator, filmmaker, artivist, and RCP alum. And he is the director of SNS. Lastly, we have the amazing Charlie Nevins. He is a senior at Crossroads High School. He is a filmmaker, photographer, and RCP alum. So my first question for you, Trey, is, did you think this film you made 4 years ago would still be so relevant today?
Thank you, Devly. Yes, I did have that realization because, as you stated, this country was founded upon systems of genocide and slavery and systems of oppression. And until we're able to engage in true truth and reconciliation around that history and work to transform these violent systems that we reside in, history will continue to repeat itself. So it is not a surprise that 4 years ago, this film is still relevant to what's happening now. But it is very motivating and exciting to see the reckoning that is happening in the United States and really around the world around the reality of anti-Blackness and systemic racism and the realities of Black people. So I'm honored that this film that was made 4 years ago can be relevant and hopefully contributive to the movement happening now.
Absolutely, well said. So my next question is for all of you. You know, last time we talked, it was 2 months ago when the demonstrations around the world, around the murder of George Floyd had just begun. So how do you feel about the current state of this movement? We can start with you, Charlie.
I think, Trey, when you said that there's been a moment of reckoning across the country and across the world, I can really agree with that, because I personally have had a reckoning with my own place in this system of oppression, because I think every white person in some way, whether, you know, even the people who say, oh no, I'm not racist, I think in so many different ways, you know, people play into this system of oppression. The misconception that this cannot be, this is not just a Black issue, you know, this oppression, this racism, it's an issue for everyone, I think the documentary so, you know, says so clearly. It's that dehumanization affects everyone, so every race has to work against anti-Blackness. So I think, and to answer your question, I've been feeling, I think there's a sense of you know, unity around this issue right now that's inspiring to me, and I'm ready to kind of continue this fight, because I know 2 months ago there was a lot of media attention around it, there was a lot of focus on it, and that's slightly changed. But I think it's just important that everyone continues to educate themselves and continues to have those conversations about oppression in their houses, in Congress, in, you know, state legislators, like in every single level of government and of our culture. So I'm hoping that that's still happening.
Yes, it is very different from 2 months ago when we did talk about it, but I feel like it's in a positive way and a negative way, because we record everything, literally. We record everything. And since those last 2 months, we've seen multiple cases of police brutality and of systemic racism. It's just coming more and more and more to the light, you know? And that's the negative side. But the positive side is, just like Charlie just explained, it's a lot of people who are uniting and realizing that it's not just about Black lives, and that we are all in this together. And in order to save Black lives, we need to come together and do something.
This whole moment in history has been so meaningful for me, because I grew up reading about civil rights activists like A. Philip Randolph and Dr. King and Malcolm X, and, you know, always dreamed of wanting to, you know, continue their legacy. And thinking about, you know, again, 4 years ago or 8 years ago, when I was really producing these films and starting the RC project, when Trayvon Martin was killed and his murderer was acquitted, when Michael Brown was murdered, the murderer was acquitted, there was not this level of awareness and reckoning happening around the world, not just about the realities of Black folks, but people's positionality in these systems. So to see that happen now is so motivating and inspiring. And therefore I feel, you know, dedicated to contributing to this movement and continuing the efforts of folks who are protesting and folks who are calling for change to fruition.
So in your film, Trey, you said that you felt hopeless. And I'm wondering, do you still feel hopeless today? And do you think real change can happen?
I think whether change happens or not is dependent on us. It's always dependent on whether we seek to utilize this moment in history as truly pivotal and transformational, or something that resorts us back to the status quo. It all depends on what we choose to do. And we're at a moment in time where I feel we can no longer choose to make transactional actions where people come from the mindset of, oh, I committed an act of racism. What can I do maybe to just make myself feel good again? Let me just donate a few dollars to the movement. Let me read a book. All right, I'm solid, I'm good. Go back to business as usual. We can no longer sustain those transactional actions. We need transformational actions. So we need to recognize these systems that we reside in, the cultures that we really embrace, that embody white supremacy and anti-Blackness, and really work to dismantle those things to move forward. And that's dependent on how we choose to utilize this moment.
Absolutely. That is so real. Another question that I have for you is, What do you think about the depictions of Black people in the media?
I am always frightened and really disturbed by the stereotypes and the images and the narratives promoted in the media, promoted in history textbooks, promoted in political and everyday discourse that dehumanizes Black people. And it's important for us to recognize that these stereotypes that paint Black people and that put Black people in boxes were intentionally created to cause people to maintain the status quo. When you dehumanize a Black person as a criminal or thug, then it allows people to be apathetic when we incarcerate them and traffic them into an unjust system. When we dehumanize, let's say, a Black woman who's speaking out against her oppression as loud and angry, the angry Black woman, then that causes her to silence herself. So these stereotypes that we often have and that we're forced to navigate every day, they're not reflections of Black people, but they are true reflections of the way in which we try to control Black bodies and maintain this system. And like you said, we are taught it as a young age. So it is so important for us to recognize that and dismantle those images and those perspectives, just as we're seeking to dismantle the systems that they reinforce.
So my next question is, where do you see yourself in the future of this movement? Charlie, I think you have some great points to say about your voice, and I definitely appreciate it. So let's start with you.
So I think my place in this movement is really as like a reinforcer and a listener and someone who, you know, as a white person has a particular platform, you know, whether it's, you know, my social media and, you know, the kind of the followers I have on social media, or my family members who are you know, who are all white and may or may not have these systems kind of ingrained in you know, in their thinking. So I think my place is to kind of continue to educate myself, continue to listen to you know, the voices of those who are oppressed, and to use my platform to really make the changes that are needed, that, you know, 50 years down the line, or you know, hopefully 10 years down the line, will make Trey's film less relevant.
My passion is to transform the perceptions, transform the relationships, and transform the systems that all contribute to systemic racism and anti-Blackness, because there's work that needs to happen in all of those pieces. So I see myself facilitating spaces and programs where people of diverse communities, especially diverse young people, can come together and engage in real truth and reconciliation dialogue about the system that we reside in and the violent perceptions that we hold towards each other and towards ourselves. And then through holding those spaces, also hold discussions where we can think about what we can do and how we can create endeavors to contribute to change. And as a dancer and as a musician, I've been working with several organizations that do work in music and social justice. So I hope to continue that.
That is really good. For me, I plan to, you know, continue to push this movement forward and, you know, use my knowledge through film to educate others. And so that's where I see myself. Ari, how about you?
I feel like I see myself doing exactly what I do now. And that's speaking my mind, and I don't try to change people's mindset, and I don't argue with people. I feel like as long as you see my part of the story, my side of the story, and I see your side of the story, then we're here. You know, we're at the same level. But I feel like my voice is powerful as a Black queen. So I'm gonna continue to speak my mind and say how I feel about it. And if whoever don't like it, then they just don't like it.
Hey, I love it. I love it. So what you guys have to say is amazing. You guys' voices is powerful. So now that we're coming to a close, I hope that everyone that is watching gained a deeper understanding of what dehumanization is. We have to stop organizing each other in different boxes because we all fall under the same category. It is important to talk with your friends and family about the reality of white supremacy. And one more thing, I dare all of you watching, all of my panelists, all you guys, to go outside and for every person that you see, try and see yourself. I think it is so important what Arnpon said, that we are a reflection and it's time to start seeing ourselves in other people. And I just want to say thank you all for watching. Please tune into our next video. Now, Trey will now perform an original spoken word piece, and then we'll send it back to Mayim.
This spoken word piece is one I wrote called History Will Be Repeated. History will be repeated unless we learn and work to defeat it. So I'm dedicating my life to treat others the way I want to be treated. See, history will be repeated unless we learn and work to defeat it. So I'm gonna use my gifts to make the world better because I believe the youth are needed. The greatest superheroes are not the ones we read about in comic books. They're the ones that live in you. Just take a look. Not only are we the future generation, we can use our gifts to be a suture for the nation. The world is plagued with discrimination, gun violence, human trafficking, and dehumanization. But we can end these issues we are facing by engaging in deep truth and reconciliation. Because we youth can be instrumental and make the world a better place with our unique potential, our dreams, our talents, our desires, our unique personalities. Those are superpowers. We can leave a legacy with our unique stories that begin with our names and end in victory. So all of our challenges are nothing to be afraid of. Heroes are what we're made of. Because see, history will be repeated unless we learn and work to defeat it. So I'm dedicating my life to treat others the way I want to be treated. See, history will be repeated unless we learn and work to defeat it. So let's all use our gifts to make the world better because I believe we all are needed. Thank you.